Hello guys and welcome back. Today I'm going to do the first in what will be a series of videos on koi health. So I think 3 parts. Today, part 1, I'm going to talk about prevention, a single most important part. If we can obviously stop our koi getting ill, getting issues in the first place, infinitely better than them catching and getting problems and then treating them afterwards. So prevention is better than cure. I'm going to talk about that. I think I'm going to talk about how I believe it's kind of often misunderstood a little bit, misapplied. I'll go through what I think you should be doing to prevent your koi getting problems in the first place. Then I'm going to go into what you need to do to spot when your koi have a problem. So what you need to be doing in order to spot that problem as early as possible, give yourself the best possible chance of getting rid of it before it becomes more serious. So that's it for this. That's all I'm going to do in this video, but probably the 2 single most important things. Part 2, I will look at how to diagnose exactly what the problem is once you realise you've got a problem, once you spot that something isn't right. So I'll do a scrape, we'll go through doing a scrape, we'll go through all the other things, tests you can do in order to correctly, 100% accurately diagnose what problem your koi have. And then in part 3, I'll go into how to treat whatever problem it is that you diagnose, the best treatments and how to administer them. And also I'm going to do a series of short videos really focusing in on those individual issues. So for example, hopefully 5 minutes max, short video purely on, for example, Costia. So I'll talk about what exactly it is, what it looks like, how to identify it, the best possible treatment for Costia, how exactly to administer that treatment, how to follow that up to make sure your treatment's successful, etc. A real focus on one particular ailment, and I will do one of those short videos as kind of a reference video really on all the different ailments and conditions and problems that you're likely to encounter. So hopefully you'll be able to search in YouTube for, I don't know, flukes, whatever it may be, and you'll find that video and you will get everything you need to know will be in a concise video all in one place. All the videos I do on health will be in a koi health playlist on the Dazzle Koi YouTube channel, so check that out as your first port of call when you suspect an issue. Obviously this is the first video. It's late September 2021, so this is the first video going in there. If you're watching this sometime later than that, then there will be others in there, so do check that out. Okay, so we'll get started. So today, as I said, prevention is better than cure. It's an adage familiar, I think, to everyone, and I think it's fair to say there won't be anyone who disagrees with that. So what it means is, rather than allow a problem to develop, you stop the problem forming in the first place. So rather than curing flukes, you stop flukes happening in the first place. What I would say though is, as I alluded earlier, I think it's often misapplied, and by that I mean a lot of people seem to think prevention is better than cure means throwing chemicals in randomly in the hope that it will somehow prevent the problem. By chemicals it could be some kind of all-in-one treatment that some companies tend to try and pass off as the cure-all tonic. They don't work. There is no such thing. Or it may be other chemicals such as salt, it may be PP, learn, whatever it may be, all the chemical treatments that are available to you. Throwing them in randomly without first diagnosing that you have the problem that chemical treats is going to do absolutely nothing. A lot of people recognise that spring is a dangerous time for koi, and I have a video on Ramona's Alley that's worth checking out on the channel. Do have a look at that if you don't know what I'm talking about. But in spring there is a temperature window where bacteria in the pond, Aeromonas bacteria, are active and looking for victims, the victims being your koi. And in that period when this is happening, your koi's immune system is still down, it hasn't yet got up to speed, and so your koi are very vulnerable to this particular bacteria. And that period happens in springtime as you're coming up through the temperature range from being cold winter temperatures coming up into spring and summer temperatures. That is true, that period is dangerous because those bacteria will take advantage of your weakened koi. However, they can only do that if they're there in the first place. That is a very important point worth thinking about. If you keep everything as you should, as we'll come on to later, those bacteria won't be there. If you don't do that, if your pond isn't clean, if you have stagnant areas, if you have settlement in your bottom drain lines, your filters aren't cleaned regularly, if you have places for that bacteria to live and breed, then yes, they can take advantage, but they can't do that if they're not there. So essentially what you're saying is you're accepting that you don't keep your pond clean enough, you've got shortcomings in your koi keeping, your husbandry, but you're going to try and make up for it by throwing some chemicals in to cover up. It's not the way. Fix the source of the problem and it won't happen. Now, throwing chemicals in, as I say, chemicals, take for example PP, potassium permanganate, that is harmful to freshwater life, as is Lernex, as is salt, as is all the other chemicals that we use to kill various things on our fish and in our ponds. They're harmful to freshwater life. What we do is we bring up the concentration of, say, PP to a level, and we hold it there, and that level is harmful enough, toxic enough to kill the bacteria, the parasite in question. However, we don't take it where it's high enough to kill our koi, and obviously koi will survive and through that treatment, that concentration, where parasites won't, because they're bigger, stronger, healthier, more robust. But the point is, if you take PP up high enough, the concentration will kill your koi as well. And the point I'm trying to make is that even at low levels that are killing parasites, it is harming your koi. It won't kill them, hopefully, unless you get it really wrong, but it's harming them. It's irritating them, it's disrupting their mucus layer, it is causing them discomfort, it is weakening their immune system, etc, etc. Basically side effects. You wouldn't, for example, give your kids a couple of paracetamol every morning just in case they get a headache, and by the same token, you should never ever give your koi, subject your koi to a chemical treatment unless they have that condition. Now, going back to the spring and throwing chemicals in, if you consider for a minute PP again, PP is active. All treatments have an active period. Sometimes it may be minutes, hours, sometimes days, but they all have a period where they're active. Beyond that, they're no longer effective. In the case of PP, you try and keep it red, pink, purple, whatever you want to call it, for about 4 hours. And during that period when it's purple, during that 4-hour active period, it is killing things. Once it is oxidized, once it goes brown and it is spent, it's not killing anything. So you can imagine throwing that in as a kind of a prevention. It isn't going to achieve anything unless there is something there in that 4-hour period for it to kill. It can't kill what isn't there. If there's no problem there, throwing PP in isn't going to stop that problem occurring after that 4-hour period has elapsed. It's going to do nothing. All as it can do is work for 4 hours during that active period. So PP and every other chemical treatment, they're not a prevention. They're not a prevention. They're a one-shot, kill what's there. If it's not there, they won't kill it. But the point is, every one of them, every time you put them in, is harming your koi. It has side effects. it is causing harm. So you would never put them in unless you have to. Never treat koi unless you fully 100% diagnose what the problem is. So if you see one of your koi flash, you think there's a problem, you would never take a guess or throw something in just in case. You would always diagnose the problem completely accurately and then choose the right treatment for that problem. And that is massively important. Okay, so if we're saying that prevention is better than cure, doesn't mean throwing chemicals in to try and kill things before they appear, then what is prevention? How do we apply prevention to a koi pond? Okay, firstly, pristine water. I know it's simple, it sounds boring. You give your koi perfect water conditions. The parameters are absolutely perfect. They are going to be in the best health. They're going to be physically in the best shape. Their immune systems are at the top of their game. They're ready and equipped to tackle issues. It sounds obvious, but that is the way to prevent problems. By giving your koi perfect conditions to live in, keeping them at the pinnacle of their health, the top of their game, that is how you prevent them getting ill. Secondly, feed them the best quality food you can. Poor quality food weakens your koi because they're not getting the correct nutrition. It pollutes the water, which again has a knock-on effect. Give them the best food you can. I feed these guys Hikari wheat germ all year round. It's the best wheat germ on the planet. It doesn't pollute the water. It contains top quality ingredients. It means that internally your koi are at the strongest, at their best equipped to tackle any issues. So water quality, food, and thirdly is down to you and an observation. You need to get to know your koi. That is the only way, by observing them, that you'll know when something is wrong, and you can pick it up as early as possible and give yourself the best possible chance. So in terms of prevention, those three things are all you need. You don't need chemicals. Just to kind of put it into a bit of perspective though, I'm not saying you will never have a problem. I built my first koi pond some 26 years ago. It was not very deep, not very big. It had too many fish in. It had a terrible filter. I didn't clean the filter very often. Within about 6 months, probably even less, I had a problem. I called a guy, Tim Waddington, then of Infiltration, out. He brought his microscope, checked them over. I had costia. Tim treated the costia. It went away, but I realised I was just a disaster waiting to happen. That pond was not right. And so I went away. I did a lot of learning. I spoke with people who knew what they were talking about. I did a lot of reading. I bought books. I educated myself, I guess is the proper way of putting it, on how to look after koi properly. And I built another pond, a much better pond. I then went 25 years without a single ailment, a single issue. I didn't have a koi jump, I didn't have a soft koi flash, I didn't have any fish knock themselves because the pond was designed properly. I had no bacteria, no parasites. I had nothing. For 25 years, nothing. Then, completely out the blue, in December this year, so 8 months ago, I got flukes. I didn't do anything differently than I'd done in the previous 25 years when I hadn't had a problem, but I got flukes. I mean, to be honest, everybody's had flukes, I think, this year, but that's by the by. What I'm saying is, you can do this, you will still get problems. So what you're doing is minimising them. And I'm not counting the first pond because that was just shocking, but in the 25 years following that, I think that is a pretty good record to go 25 years without having a problem. And that is entirely down to what I deem as prevention. So top quality water and cleanliness, top quality food, and on observation and husbandry. Now, as I say, inevitably you will occasionally have a problem. So what we need to do now is to make sure that if we have that problem, we absolutely spot it as early and as soon as possible. The sooner you spot it, the sooner you can fix it and you move on. So as I say, we'll talk a little bit about how you go about spotting that. The first thing is you need to observe your koi and observe them a lot. That is the only way you'll get to know them. They're all individuals. Every one of them has a different personality. Every one of them behaves differently. You can't, it's not enough to say this koi is hanging around the bottom, it must be ill, because maybe that koi hangs around the bottom all the time, maybe, you know, but you won't know that unless you observe them and you learn how every single one of them behaves, because what you're looking for is something different. What you're looking for is a change in behaviour. Each fish doing something, or our fish doing something that it wouldn't normally do. As I say, hanging around the bottom of the pond could be a sign that there's an issue. If that koi doesn't normally hang around the bottom of the pond, it's something different. Other signs: clamp the fins to the side of the bodies, sitting on the bottom motionless, not active. Gulping at the surface for air is another sign. Flashing, as I mentioned, flashing, flicking, gets called lots of different things. Basically, this is when your fish kind of flick against something solid in the pond. Sometimes they do it against the air bubbles as well. It may be the window, it may be the walls, the bottom of the pond, the bottom drain cover is another favourite. Essentially, the koi is trying to scratch an itch. So a parasite, usually, not always, but usually, it's irritating it, it's causing it an itch, and it's trying to scratch it. You need to look out for that. Very rarely fish will flash and it not be a sign that there's a problem. Sometimes they can do it after food. Sometimes atmospheric pressure can cause it. So if there's a big storm coming, but excuse me. But again, the thing is, by observing your fish a lot, you'll learn how they behave. You'll learn that that particular little chag there has a propensity to flash on the bottom drain occasionally after feeding, and that isn't a problem. It isn't a worry, but you'll only know that by observing them. Obvious physical things: not eating. So these will come up. That greedy chag there will, if I put my finger in, it'll come up and it'll bite my finger. I know that if he doesn't do that, then there's something wrong. Fish going off the food is a big sign that there's a problem. As I say, physical things such as redness. So if you have a white based koi, you see the tiny little red veins will come up. Usually a sign of stress. There will be a reason for that stress. You need to find out what it is. So redness, white spots on the fish, white waxy white marks on fins, tail, etc. Obviously knocks, bumps, scrapes, and again, 99% of the time, if your koi knocks itself, you shouldn't have anything there for it to knock itself on, but occasionally they manage to do it anyway. If it does, 99% of the time it should not be a problem. If your water is tip-top, the fish is in tip-top health, and you have no bacteria present, they will heal. They will heal majority of times. Missing scales, obviously, again, lumps could indicate tumours, etc. So lots of things to look out for. Fin rot, you know, fins, tail fins, back fins, etc. can become damaged or rot, can show signs of rot. All things that you need to spot, but all things that you won't spot unless you see your fish on a daily basis. So another kind of big bugbear of mine is winter, when people say, right, that's it, winter's here now, put a cover on the pond, and they lock them away, and they open it up again in spring, and they find all kinds of problems. Now, if you must observe your fish, even in the winter, you need to see your fish every day. Sinking food, another one I really don't like. When you put sinking food in, you don't know, you won't spot when fish are not eating. You won't see them come up, so you can observe them, so, you know, close up. It's not great. I would always advise floating foods. Okay, so yeah, they're the key things really, I guess. Prevention, water quality, food, observation. And then in terms of identifying a problem as early as possible, get to know the fish, get to know each fish, observe, understand, know how they behave when they're fit and healthy. That's the only way you will know, you will be able to spot behaviour that indicates they're no longer fit and healthy. So that's all I'm going to talk about in this one. I say that's all, but as I say, I think that's probably the single most important part of this health kind of series really. In the next video I will, as I say, I'll cover how to diagnose a problem. So if you see your fish flashing, if you see redness, if you see your fish off its food, if you see a fish sulking at the bottom, what is the next step then to diagnose exactly what the problem is, so you can give it the right treatment? And that's what I'll cover in the next video. I'll do a scrape, I'll do water tests, etc, etc. We'll go through all that, so look out for that. In the meantime, if that was useful to you, please do subscribe so you don't miss the future videos in the series. Until the next video, take care of yourself, and I'll see you soon.